Gen Z, they're coming many times by themselves to a church, to a young adult ministry, expecting the relationships to happen there. Young adults didn't stay because the event was impressive. They stay because somebody knows their name. A young adult pastor shared with us in the study that young adults aren't bored by the Bible, they're bored by shallow expressions of it.
And sometimes you might have an incredible leader, but they might not be your leader.
We found with our friends at Barna that 2/3 of young adults in Gen Z don't believe that they have a caring adult in their life.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Young Adults Today podcast. I'm Micah.
I'm Josiah and we're your hosts, and today we are unpacking the top 7 trends of young adult ministry in 2026. Right out of the gate, you are going to want to download the full report called The State of Young Adult Ministry. It's linked in the show notes wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. The State of Young Adult Ministry. We surveyed hundreds of young adult pastors and leaders across North America, and these are the top 7 trends. Here we go.
Here we go. We're going to unpack these for you. Okay, so number 1 is we found out that young adults actually want community more than they want content. And I would say 75% of the community said that they're looking for relationships, they're looking for community, and those are the primary drivers of their engagement. Can you believe that?
I can, because what was the top question that you have been asked on college campuses for years,
Oh
Micah?
my gosh, it was how do you make friends?
Yeah.
Micah, how do you make friends? How do I make friends?
Yep.
Or how do I become a friend? It all had to do with friendships.
And there is wide debate about, like, speculation. Is it a season of life thing? Is it a generational thing? I remember being a millennial when we started in young adult ministry. It was millennials, and they were my peers. And we all had friends. They just might not have been good influences. Gen Z, they're coming many times by themselves to a church, to a young adult ministry, expecting the relationships to happen there. And look, the season of life thing is they're not riding the school bus anymore.
Right.
They're, for the first time in that young adult space and season of life, you're not surrounded by youth programs. You're not surrounded by after-school sports or programs or activities. And so friendship, the fact is it's just different as an adult. But as a young adult, what an opportunity that we have as churches to create third spaces and communities of belonging for young adults.
Yes, I love it.
Trend 2,
Here we
are
go.
you ready?
Yes.
And just want to say this about trend 1. Young adults didn't stay because the event was impressive. They stay because somebody knows their name.
Yep, 100%.
Haven't you found that to be true?
Yes.
Okay, trend 2 is young adults are hungry for depth, not shallow Christianity. We're seeing, by the way, record numbers of Bible sales, church attendance, and the like, but young adults are asking the questions of faith, the existence of God, who is Jesus, how do we adult, and how does this faith integrate with everyday life? And patterns repeated constantly throughout our study and our summary is Scripture. What does the Bible mean? Disciple. What does it mean to be a Christ follower as a 20-something in 2026? Authenticity, worship, and deep teaching. Well,
And what we found out with the second one is like young adults, they don't want entertainment. Yes, they do, but I think the status quo or like the stigma has been like, they just want to be entertained.
Right.
And if you go to a basketball game, it's like, come entertain us. We're not going to cheer unless you tell us what to say in our cheer. But young adults are simply saying this. We found out that young adults want biblical truth,
yes.
meaningful conversations, spiritual formation, and practical theology. And they want to understand, how do I unpack this? How do I apply this? And how do I live this out each and every single day of my life when I feel like I may be the only one as a believer in my new job,
That's real.
in my new role, in my cubicle, on my team, whatever that is. So like they want to essentially be empowered and have the practicals of how do I do this on my own and own my faith in the process.
A young adult pastor shared with us in the study that young adults aren't bored by the Bible, they're bored by shallow expressions of it.
Ooh.
And so our job
So good.
is to be compelling communicators of the gospel of Christ's message and what does it actually mean. And, you know, isn't it exciting that people are like right where we want them? They're asking the spiritual questions. So are we ready for it when they show up?
I sure hope we are. We need to prepare for that. Trend number 3 was this. Young adult ministry is growing, but fragile, and they're in a very important state. That was the number 1 response to that. Are they growing? Are they taking them over? What do you want to say?
We are seeing record numbers of young adult ministries starting right now this year in 2026. It is crazy. In fact, the study reveals that attendance is outpacing leadership development.
Yes.
So you have all these young adults who, by the way, are leading an emerging ministry as an emerging generation. And so it is a fascinating dynamic of essentially pastoring your peers.
Yeah.
And so as that attendance grows, are we raising disciples, equipping teams, and not just recruiting volunteers, but developing leaders?
Well, and we're seeing that growth even across the U.S. in this way. So we had the opportunity of going to Grand Canyon University,
Yes.
talk to the vice president of
The
spiritual,
campus pastor, Dr. Tim Griffin.
Yes, and he had said if you would have come 3 to 5 years ago and tried to do this, it would have just been the 3 of us.
Wow.
And we had over 100 people that participated, that attended, that checked things out.
Just from the Arizona Valley.
Yes.
These are young adult pastors.
Yes. So, I mean, young adult ministries down there are just exploding in the best way possible. So it's like 3 years ago, it wouldn't have worked. So we would have been ahead of our time, essentially.
For sure. And 3 of the greatest game changers, Micah, when it comes to young adult ministry in the local church, number 1 is if the lead pastor, the senior pastor has a vision for it. And you'll know they either want this in the church or it doesn't fit in their vision.
And it comes from the pulpit. Like they need to hear it. Yeah.
Yes. And then number 2, are they putting resources towards it? We'll get into this later in the study, but young adult pastors are saying like, I feel supported, just not resourced. I took a phone call from a young adult pastor who could not afford the $150 that it took to get to like a leader conference. And we do everything we can to fundraise to help scholarships be accessible. But I look at like, this is like, it's just a tragedy, sometimes the lack of resourcing. And then the last thing that is going to be a game changer, pastor's vision, resources. And then number 3 is really like, do you have staffing and people that are committed to it? Like I've seen a drastic difference. It could be a bivocational pastor. It could be part-time, ideally, maybe even full-time. Is this a value in the budget, in the team, and we're putting resources behind it?
Yeah, well, I think that the strong line, I think would be called it kind of in the study was this. It said many young adult ministries are one leader away from one of 2 things. 1, collapse, or 2, breakthrough. So finding the right person is kind of like Simon Sinek talks about this, like get the right person on the bus, get him in the right seat and help them to like pretty much flourish and function the way that they should. And sometimes you might have an incredible leader, but they might not be your leader. There might be a time and a place for them, but is it going to collapse under their leadership? And how is it being built? Or is there a breakthrough happening because they're in tune with the Spirit? So I think finding the right leader, if you truly do believe in young adult ministry, as the lead pastor casting that vision to the congregation.
And it could be as simple as it's welcome week in school in August, and you welcome all the Lopes near GCU. You welcome all the Gophers who are back in school, or shout out to all the college students. We believe in you. There's coffee here for finals week, et cetera. And I think also within young adult ministry, the 4th trend of 2026, this is disruptive stuff. Number 4, young adult leaders need more support than churches realize. And why this is essentially young adults are pastoring their peers. You have the same generation leading the generation they're trying to reach. And, what does it look like to support a young adult ministry? I think I know of a church in Iowa, and the lead pastor believes in this so much that he hosts a weekly life group for young adults from their church. They feed them food. It's in their home. So as a pastor, if you're listening, we're cheering for you. We're rooting for you. We want that wave to start in the student section of your church. I think one of the things is, when's the last time you've been on a college campus for a prayer walk? When's the last time you've hosted some young adults in your home, in your backyard? The last one, when's the last time that you sat for a meal, a cup of coffee, or in your office to hear and smell like the sheep, but also hear the very real struggles? They need your support. We found with our friends at Barna that 2/3 of young adults in Gen Z don't believe that they have a caring adult in their life. Well, we have that opportunity, and the stakes are sky high.
Yeah, and I think with that, like, why don't they realize how much support is actually needed? Is I think we need to realize the people who are Number one, are they full-time volunteers in those roles as
Wow.
the young adult, not pastor, but young adult coordinator?
Totally.
Are they bivocational? Like, are they working more than one job? Do they have a family? Do they have kids? Taking all that into consideration. And I would say any young adult ministry, for the most part, at some point was built from scratch. It was pioneered.
Yeah.
And if we're talking even in the business world, which I learned, this could have changed since then, even in order to like understand brand recognition, you needed to have like your logos, your colors, your motto, your tagline, whatever it was, for 7 years before people would even recognize it.
Yep.
So when you're starting a ministry from scratch, if you have a lead pastor that says, you're only going to we'll give you 2 years and see what you can do. Well, God can do anything in 2 years. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, in order for them to truly be sustainable, we need to start like learning while we're leading and extending that grace to the people that are in those roles, because we are all going to fail. I mean, we're failing every day, right?
The jaw
Failing on up.
when I read the data that came in, the most jaw-dropping statistic I found, the most jaw-dropping finding that we found is that of churches that even have a young adult ministry, which is still a relatively small percentage, there's only 5% that are established.
Yeah, which means
95% are emerging. They're still getting started, yet 83% of those leaders found that they have tremendous optimism and faith that God's with them, that great things are yet to come. It brings us to trend number 5.
Trend number 5.
And young adults want intergenerational connection, not just isolation. So one of the biggest questions we get in our world at Emmanuel with young adults, but across the state of Minnesota and with our travels with young adults today, almost every young adult I talk to, they're looking for a mentor. They're looking for somebody who has some life experience, some wisdom, some stories, that maybe they have some scars that can save some headache, some hurdles, hangups, and heartbreak along the way. And so young adults don't want a silo. They actually want to be a part of the entire life of the church.
So good. Bridging those generations together is what is key. Will hold us all together in the church.
I know.
Oh man. Trend number 6, young adult ministry is becoming more relational than programmatic. So instead of just doing the program thing with the bright lights and the fog, which there's nothing wrong with that. We're finding that what teams are saying, what leaders say is working, small groups. Dinners around the table, whether that be at home, at a restaurant, something like organized but organic at the same time. Conversations, so deep, meaningful conversations that actually lead somewhere that aren't surface level. And one conversation I'll even share with the audience, like instead of saying like, oh, how's the weather? Or, hey, how are you doing? It's like, how's your soul? Like,
Beautiful.
what has God been teaching you? Like, what are you struggling with right now? You know, and just being a open heart to deepen conversation. And you might have to be that trendsetter in those conversations. What else is working? Discussion-based teachings to kind of break through some of the, kind of crack the egg. Mentoring, and then house gatherings. And I think we've found, like, people don't know how much you care until you show them how much you care by inviting them into your home. Because I'm like, if young adults are anything like the ones we've served, like that are parts of other churches, they want to see me and Josiah in our marriage. They want to see you and I in our parenting. They want to see, like, how do you live? Like, we want to be under your roof. And I think that, I don't know, I love opening up our home.
Home hangs are amazing. Just watch as young adults' lives will be impacted and their faith will grow. Mentorship will happen. And though it's a third space, those relationships will happen so beautifully, so powerfully.
So good.
And I'll just say this, Micah, isn't it incredible that we're serving a generation, Gen Z, getting into Gen Alpha, but they're not all about the show, the glitz, the glam, the fog, the lights. It can be stripped back, acoustic, guitar, cajon, and the presence of God. And sometimes less is more with the personal relationships.
The smoke they want is from a campfire.
Oof.
You know what I mean? Like, they want campfire stories and songs. Like, take them back to, like, nature, like, truly.
The 7th trend that is really happening in 2026 when it comes to young adult ministry, this is from the State of Young Adult Ministry report that we will link to in the show notes. So excited for you to get the full report in your hands. But churches are reawakening to the strategic importance of young adult ministry. Our friend Hunter Perry has often said that if you want a church of mature adults tomorrow, invest in young adults today. And, it's like Jesus chose could have chose anyone to be his disciples. He chose young adults. And there is such strategy of investing in the now generation that's the next generation right now.
Well, we believe in them. We need to entrust that they're going to do what God's called them to do. But if we're going to hold that torch and hold that mantle in our hands, like, we're not doing our job. So as leaders who go before, like, that's part of the generational observation that we've had, as well as the opportunity that we get to. So I would just love, just the final takeaway, young adult ministry in 2026 is not declining, it's developing.
Amen.
Right? So we need to have the right people in places. Young adults are spiritually hungry. Leaders are hopeful. And I think more lead pastors are seeing the need as time goes on. It's not just a trend. They're still a part of the body. And we're just excited to get this into your hands. So if you want, you can click the link below, read the full report. Josiah, any finalized thoughts, charges, challenge? What is he thinking?
I'm going to recap them real quick.
Let's see.
And then these are the 7 key trends of 2026 with young adult ministry from the State of Young Adult Ministry Report. Number 1 is community is eclipsing content. Young adults desire community more than they desire content. Number 2, depth of teaching is more important than entertainment. 3rd, young adult ministry is growing, but it's fragile. 4th, leaders need our support. They need our resources. Maybe it's our job to fund them. 5th, intergenerational connection matters. This is mentorship. We're fired up about this. 6th, relational ministry is rising. And last, churches are reawakening to the strategic impact of young adult ministry. Watch as it impacts every single part of your church. And if you enjoyed this, we have a brand new course launching called Young Adult Ministry Playbook. It's available. The link is in the show notes. Sign up with the code PLAYBOOK and you'll receive $50 off the course, Young Adult Ministry Playbook. This will be 8 sessions of Micah and I, not only unpacking the trends, but we also want to unpack what's working in young adult ministry. Well, we're with you. We're cheering for you. Until next time, this is the Young Adults Today podcast.